So for our first shot at doing a tutorial here, we're going to be taking a look at a standard 40mm GW base, and we're going to be making an outdoorsy, rocky themed base for this. Now for our materials, we'll be using some standard cork sheet that we have here. We'll be using some sandy paste from Vallejo, as well as other plant effects such as lichen from Battlefield and Army Painter. And you'll be seeing a couple of little tufts of grass that we'll be putting on here as well, but we won't end up using the brown ones. So to start off, we'll grab our cork sheet, and what we'll do is just put the base underneath it and basically tear out enough to cover the entire base, or at least parts of the base, depending on the amount of cork that you actually want to have on it. And any of those extra pieces that I'm breaking off right now, we'll be able to stack on the top to make the base a little bit higher for us to use. So with everything stacked to the way that we would want it to be, we'll just go disassemble and then grab some super glue and start gluing it all down. Wait a little bit of time for the glue to dry, because you don't want to get a bunch of super glue on your brush. And what we're going to do is start painting these rocks after cracking off along any of the overlying pieces of cork that aren't really going to be usable in terms of gaming. For this rock, I'm going to use a off black. It's Vallejo model color German gray. Any kind of mix between like black and white could work here as well, just more black than white. So really, it's just all about slapping on that color all over the model. Apologies for actually painting it off the frame here. You'll see me bring it back into frame a little bit. It's not anything too exciting. We're just painting a base, the gray color that we had there before, to make sure that you don't see any of that cork color coming underneath it. Cork's really absorbent, so you can feel free to water down your paint a little bit more than you would say normally for painting a miniature, and then it'll get a nice deep color there. If you're doing this at home, you may see pieces of cork break off as you're brushing. That's okay. It won't be too integral in order to keep that cork there. It's better that it just comes off now. So now that the entire base is German gray, we'll go ahead and do our first dry brush highlight. In this case is Vallejo model color stone gray, mixed about 50-50% with German gray. And here, that's just pinned right down, just dry brushing, trying to pick out the edges and get some of that fun texture along the top of the cork. That's the cool thing about cork, is cases like this, it actually does look very, very stony along the top, almost like the crackle mediums that GW and Vallejo and I'm sure some of the other companies that are producing out there that people are using, say for the Skitarii right now, in order to make that cracked earth kind of look. And now for our last highlight, we're just going to go straight stone gray, dry brushed over top of the edges that we hit before. And just note that in this case I am just trying to hit the edges to bring out that extra little bit of definition over the rock formations that we're building out here. And now for this next part, we'll grab the sandy paste and start working with that. If you haven't seen something like this before, it's basically like a thick paint with sand mixed into it. So you use one of your old junker brushes in order to apply something like this. You can go like a big dry brush kind of swath that I was using here. You can see a piece of it just dropping down because it is kind of like drywall paste or something thicker like that. And while it's going on right now, we'll be able to move it back into frame once I actually get it on there. You can spread it around. You could use a sculpting tool or a spatula or anything like that, but really in this case we're just trying to get it onto the model just to give a varying texture, and make sure that you're trying to wipe it off the edges when it's all done. So here's what it's going to look like when it's all done. Any of the white areas is just where the sandy paste is sitting. It does take a little while longer to dry than your standard paint, so give it some time. I wouldn't try. You can use a blow dryer if you really want to speed it up, although it might burn your fingers a little bit. In this case, what we're going to do is use both of these pigments in order to actually shade the base. What we're going to do is mix them in that back of a blister foam that we had there with some water, like you see in this frame, and all we're doing is just flipping it over top. Think of it like painting on a wash, but you don't have to worry too much about it. It can go wherever you want. It's going to dry in a really dusty effect, really cool effect over top of both the sandy paste and the rock, as we're going to see in a second here. So this is what it looks like dried, more or less. See, it's really heavily sitting in some areas. Because it's just a pigment that is now dried on this without any resin that would require it to be an actual paint, we can actually pick it up and move it around. So all I did was grab some water out of my paintbrush, or sorry, my paint pot, and then just started moving it around. It's really neat. You're actually taking off some of the pigment in this case, and you can put it into some other places instead. This kind of effect can be used in terms of washing miniatures or tanks or weathering or anything like that, so you'll probably see some tutorials from me doing things like that in the future. So now it's all dry from where it was before. You can notice that anything that was that sandy paste, which is a lighter color, has a more vibrant tone to it rather than if it was just sitting on the rocks. So because I thought that the brown grass tufts that we had in the beginning of the video would be too much of the same kind of colors, I decided to go with more of a vibrant green. These things are awesome from RV Painter. All you do is throw down a few dabs of super glue, and then you can just basically rip them off the area with some tweezers and then glue them right down. I wanted to make some kind of bush-like thing on the base as well, so I just grabbed some lichen that we had from the intro, and we're gluing it down here. Lichen's really big and spindly, so unless you're actually coating with white glue, it's going to move around a lot as you're trying to glue it down. So you can see me kind of fight with it here a bit, trying to get it right into place, and it doesn't end up listening to me quite as well as I wanted to, so I ended up having to pick it up and get some super glue on my fingers by putting it in place. But that's okay. Super glue can just get chipped off in the end afterwards. So that's what the base more or less looks like. I did take a little bit more super glue. You can see some darker green there in the tuft than there was before in the last frames. That's okay. I prefer black along my bases for the rims. Some people go with actual tones, but that's up to you. My favorite black is Vallejo Model Color, and what I'm going to do is just flip it around the edges here, and then we're good to go. So the black's dry, and we can see that we have a finished base. It's kind of spinning around. You can take a peek at all the different areas of it. I'm going to grab a Wrath of Kings miniature if you just want to see the width. Pretty wide stance, so you don't necessarily need to go that wide with these kinds of bases. Just make sure they can fit your minis. And thanks for watching, guys.